Hello. So if you don't know, I'm 18, I'm currently in the summer before I go to university, so I've literally just finished school and I just got my A-level results. Context, I went to the same all-girls private school from the age of about 4 up to finishing my A-levels when I was 18. So I've had a lot of experiences there. Basically my whole life has been that school, so it's very strange to have left. But I definitely have some things to say. Also, the school that I went to actually was not an all-girls school for the whole time I was there. The primary school was and still is mixed genders, co-ed basically. But in my particular year group, the last males in the class left at the end of year 2 and we never had cis males in our particular year group again. But when I think we must have been in about year 10, they started bringing co-education, mixed gendered years up from year 7. And by the time we left, every year group apart from ours had mixed genders. It was quite the change. I don't know, man. It was weird. So my experience is probably entirely different to anyone in year groups younger than me. They had to bring in boys because they weren't getting enough students, and obviously otherwise the school would have had to close and that would be sad. Also, it's maybe a bit of an archaic tradition. I don't know, because obviously there are positives, particularly to all female schools. I feel weird calling it all girls and all female because obviously trans people exist, but I am going to use those terms in describing the school. It's just easier. There are definitely positives and negatives to having an all-female year group. Good things are that you don't have sexism. I mean, obviously there is still going to be like internalized misogyny and stuff like that, but you don't have like girls dressing to impress guys at school. Relationships were pretty rare. There was less distractions within the school experiences, though obviously people still had like boyfriends out of school and there were a few gays, maybe, I don't know. That is not completely taken out of the equation, but like there was definitely just not as much pressure to look nice every day. Also positives, feminism. I was brought up in a classroom where literally everyone maybe wouldn't necessarily call themselves a feminist, but were like against sexism and were like, yeah, girl power and stuff like that. And most of my teachers were female, so basically we were just surrounded by strong women, and I think we ended up with a class of strong characters, so that definitely had like a positive effect, definitely on me. Like even though I was a shy little child, I grew so much in confidence throughout the whole time, and I feel like that was probably due to that. And I think I do have less internalized misogyny than people who might have grown up in a co-ed system. Obviously I was still interacting with the male species in my life, but yeah, my role models were mostly female, and I think that's definitely a positive thing, especially when in the media you have less female role models than maybe there should be. There's some positives about that, but negatives, drama. We had a lot of gossiping, a lot of bickering, people talking behind people's backs, and best friends falling out. Very little physical fighting, which I think may be a gender thing, who knows. Yeah, probably. But to be fair, that did mostly fizzle out during the end of our schooling. Like the worst times were about kind of like maybe year 8 to like year 10, and then after that it kind of went like less so, especially in sixth form because obviously everyone's so much more mature. Other negatives, I didn't know any boys. Like I knew some, but not many my own age. I don't know if that's like damaged my ability to communicate with the male species. I don't think so now, because I've met a lot more males through the internet and therefore have more experience talking to them now, and also they're not that different. I was genuinely afraid of boys when I was younger, like, because I just didn't, they were like a alien species to me. I feel like that may have harmed my communication skills. It definitely got in the way of my dating prospects. Any drama that happened at school, I mostly stayed out of. Like, I remember the teachers a couple of times saw me as like the impartial bystander to like question in like times when people were falling out. Another thing to mention, my school was really small. It's slightly bigger now, but it was always pretty small. My year group at the end there was about 25 people. Everyone kind of knew each other very well, which meant that we ended up with some really close bonds, but also there was some quite hefty fallouts. I mean, as far as I know, we didn't have any super serious bullying. Like, we definitely had some. We definitely had some people who were kind of seen as lesser or that were picked on. And maybe I was just oblivious, I don't know. But there was. And I don't think they had very good punishments for situations like that. Detentions barely ever happened, and I don't know if they fixed that now, so like this is just like my experience a while ago. Another weird thing about my school was the private school element. So basically everyone who went to that school paid for it, and there were like scholarships and like burses and stuff. And I think a lot of people assume that if you go to a private school that means your parents must be loaded and that you're like upper class, but most of the time at my school that was not the case. Pretty much everyone there was middle class, and a lot of people didn't have that much spare money. Like, I don't know everyone's personal financial situations, but the vibe I got is that their parents had chosen to direct their money at their children's education instead of other things like holidays. So obviously I and everyone else who went there were very privileged to get to go there, that their parents had enough money to live and also pay for their child's education, but it wasn't like everyone was flying in on their private jets. I don't know why you'd fly to school in an aeroplane, but you know, rich people. The fact that our parents were paying for us to go to school made things a little bit uncomfortable at times, because a lot of parents saw this as an investment. So basically, if they paid all this money for their child to go to this school and their child didn't get good grades, didn't succeed in life, then they would see that as a loss, as a waste, which I think is really bad. And I think that's what caused me to put so much pressure on myself throughout my school career, because I didn't want to let my parents and the school and everyone down because they'd put so much into it. And if I did badly, then I would have wasted all the money that my parents have put into it. If you don't know, I was a straight A-star student through my entire school career, up until my A-level results, where I got all Bs, and I was happy with it because I came to the conclusion that the pressure that I was putting on myself was unhealthy. And though part of that pressure was probably due to my own personal mental health and other factors, I think a large amount of that pressure came from the responsibility to not waste the investment that was put into my school and not make my school look bad. This put a lot of pressure on the students, like literally everyone was having breakdowns. And I don't think this is just a problem with my school, this is a problem with the education system as a whole. I do not agree with the exam system. I don't think that they should test your entire knowledge on one day, and I think that school has become way too focused on grades. I know that teachers don't like teaching to the test, but they have to, because it's really important that their students get good grades so they get more students. When I was younger, I used to be so embarrassed of my school. We used to have really bright coloured blazers, and I used to always take it off before I went into the supermarket if I went straight from school, because I was ashamed. Not just because it looked really bad, like so unfashionable. I never used to want to tell people the name of my school in case they knew that it was a private school or that it was an all-girls school, because people would be kind of quite mean about it. They'd assume I was stuck up and snobby and rich and a lesbian because it was all girls, which obviously shouldn't be an insult in the first place, but like teenagers, you know. And obviously we were privileged. That doesn't give anyone the right to like tear us down. We had a lot of political discussions in the common room, which I really enjoyed. One of the best parts of school was being surrounded by intelligent young people who had opinions, and that's what made my sixth form experience really good. Possible misconception about private schools, that the teaching is any better than other schools. I mean, obviously I've never been to a state school, so I don't know, but I do know that the teaching in my school was not perfect. Don't get me wrong, I loved all my teachers, especially my A-level ones, as people. Like, they were all great. In fact, I think I had all good A-level teachers. There were definitely some teachers who were not up to standard, and people would complain about them, even to other teachers or to the headmaster, and they wouldn't do anything. The one thing is that all the teachers did genuinely care. That didn't necessarily mean they were good at their job. So McKenna has said that people often say that an all-girls school would have more drama. I don't know if they do, because I've never been to not an all-girls school. Sib said, do you think the money was worth it? That's a tough question, because I would not be the person I am today without that school. I lived my whole life at it. I wouldn't want to be a different person. So I'm not going to say that it wasn't worth it, but also at the same time, I don't think I would send my own kids to a private school. Jules says, did you have uniforms? Do you feel uniforms are helpful or hurtful in a school environment? We did have uniforms up until year 11, and then in sixth form we were allowed to wear our own clothes. But we still had like a dress code. I think it was helpful because it meant that everyone kind of was on the same level. I just think that school took it a bit too far though. And teenagers will always find a way to divide people, because there would be people who would like roll their skirts up loads and that would make them stand out, or they'd have like really shiny hair. One really bad thing that I'm still angry about, and it's still a thing at my school today, is that they wouldn't allow females to wear trousers. The uniform was pencil skirts at the time. I think someone did like a petition about it, like it was like a big thing for a bit, but they were just like unequivocally no, because it's a sixth form privilege to wear trousers, which I think is awful. That's harking back to like Downton Abbey days when women couldn't wear trousers. Like, that's so ridiculous. And even now when boys have their own uniform and boys can wear trousers, the girls can't. And I am upset. Some people just really aren't comfortable in skirts. One way that my school was better at teaching was the small class sizes, because the teachers could really focus on you as an individual. I love my school, even though I had some negative experiences there. Despite all that, I really loved going there. If I hadn't, I would have left. I loved the people I met there more than anything. I loved the learning. I loved the environment for the most part. There is where I learned to act. It's where I learned to be confident. It's where I met my best friends in the entire world, and it made me who I am today, and for that I am eternally grateful. Like, genuinely, thanks school. This is 14 years of my life. It's quite hard to fit into a succinct YouTube video, so if you have any questions, anything else you'd like to know about, then please leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear about your own school experiences. Goodbye.
Don't know anything, but you talk endlessly.